much indeed for that tepid welcome. Lazy cunt.
Take a seat, Pete.
Thank you for coming, dear lot. It's great to see you. We've got rock and roll royalty here tonight. Duncan Reed.
Give Pete a big cheer. He's feeling a little bit joyless.
That's better.
Pete, actually, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm alright until I caught my finger in that door over there. I've got a splinter behind my bass playing finger.
No, it's not like you to complain.
It wasn't that one, it was that one. I'll sue.
Are you feeling joyless?
Yeah, most of the time, yeah, of course, yeah.
Because you will be by the end of this interview.
I'm already joyless. I've been sitting there all afternoon, for fuck's sake.
So, this is a great book. They Call Me Joyless. Someone's talking. Shh. Thank you.
Have some respect, come on.
Who gave you that name? And how did you know it had to be the title for your autobiography?
Well, that name was given to me. My two friends are here tonight, Andy Trushler and Petra Gilbert. We can ask them why.
Yeah. Where are they? Andy?
He's just so miserable. Friends, eh? Friends. Who needs them? No, you see, I do complain a lot. I mean, my other friend Irving says I could have an argument in an empty room. And he's right, so I could. But really, all I'm doing is standing up for myself, and I will call out shit when I see it. So when them Tory bastards start moaning on about fucking racist shit, and I hear it, I will call it out, and I'll complain about it. And when they park their big 4x4s on the pavement, I will tell them not to do it again, please. So all I'm doing is standing up for myself. We should do more of it. Then perhaps we won't be in this fucking mess, would we? Fuck the Tory.
You get it, Pete. Get it all out early.
I feel better now.
What made you decide to write an autobiography? Because I was surprised to see your date of birth, actually.
Yeah, I do look young. You're right there. Yeah.
Well,
not that young, obviously.
okay.
Well, I decided to write an autobiography because every other fucker has written one, so why not me? And I want some of that, and I think that's only fair.
Fair enough.
You're not famous, are you? You're famous. Well, there was two reasons. One is because all my friends kept fed up with me telling these stories down the pub. There's a 2-bob rock god. I said, just write it down, then we don't have to listen to you go on about it all the time. So that was one reason. The other reason was I wanted just to record something for my kids. I don't really know what my dad did, other than that, he died 10 years ago, and I know roughly what he did, but I've got no details of his life, and I thought it'd be nice to leave something behind for them. So I did the whole thing from birth right the way up to, I was going to say death, but I could die tonight, obviously, but up to the present day. So it's just basically a record of my life so far, and I hope people find it entertaining. I've written it very simply because I can't do big words, so you lot should understand it all right.
Yeah, I loved it.
Thank you.
You kept a diary as well all through your career.
Yeah, well, that sounds a bit nerdy. I didn't write in what the weather was like and what I had for dinner or anything. It was a rock diary, and I started to keep details of the gigs I played from 1975, 76 onwards, and I just carried that on. Just wrote shit in there. So when I came back to write the book, I obviously referred to that diary. The stuff, I'm glad I wrote it down because there was stuff in there I don't remember doing at all, and I've got no recollection, no tangible recollection of that happening. But I know it happened because I wrote it down at the time. So yeah, I just carried on doing it right the way through the Department S days and everything. So it's all in diaries at home to verify what's in the book. So the book is very truthful. I didn't make it up. It's actually what happened.
So they helped you with the foundation for the book?
Oh, very much so, yeah. And I think without that, I wouldn't have been able to recall any of the details. There's a gig list in the back of the book of all the gigs I've done, and the dates and the venues I played in. And if I hadn't written them down, how am I going to recall that?
Yeah, and you've never played the Dublin Castle?
First time in the Dublin Castle.
Woohoo!
And the last. No, it's a great iconic venue, isn't it? What was that at the back? Who's heckling?
I said it's a long visitor.
Hey, that's Spiz there, rock and roll royalty.
Can we get everybody to come forward a bit? Because you seem really, really far away. There's a lot of people crushed at the back there.
Who said that?
Shuffle them Zimmer frames forward or whatever.
What did Did you face any, other than memory and diaries, did you face any challenges or did you find any surprises when you looked back over your life? Any shocks?
Well, it was quite cathartic looking back, and it was kind of unusual revisiting some of that stuff, particularly from my childhood and stuff, because I don't, on a day-to-day basis, think about what a shit childhood I had. But when you have to think about it, it does bring it all back. So there was no shocks, because I was there at the time. So I knew it happened. I was shocked at how bad I was at spelling and sentence construction, but my good journalist friends put me right on that respect. So yeah, it was just kind of revisiting some of that early stuff that was quite awkward at the time, but still cathartic at the same time.
All right, let's go back to the beginning. Pete R. Jones. By the way, is R a middle name or is it just...
R is the last letter of my first name, Peter. I said it wasn't going to be difficult.
Stands for R.
I'm sorry, Julie, I'm sorry. It also, coincidentally, is the first letter of my middle name as well.
Which is R.
Which is Ranker. Ronald is my middle name.
Ronald! Peter Ronald Jones!
Shout out for all the Ronalds in the room. It was my uncle's name. It's dead now, so don't worry. Don't feel bad about cheering and laughing.
Peter Ronald Jones.
Peter Ronald Jones.
You were born September 22nd, youngest of 3 children to Mary and Frank, and you say in your book, Joyless, that we're talking about this evening, I slid unceremoniously out of my mother. Now, Pete...
Well, it wasn't from your father, was it? It must have been your mother.
Oh, I just want to know, and I'm sure all the women in the room want to know as well, have you ever actually had a baby yourself?
Well, that's interesting. Not as such.
Because the word slid unceremoniously.
As far as I was concerned, I think my mum had a few words to say about it at the time.
I bet she did.
But I was quite... It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I hardly remember it. I just... she'd already had 2 others, so...
yeah, that's a myth created by...
Home birth as well, the front bedroom, not hospital, in the bedroom.
Impressive. Very impressive. But by all accounts, your easy birth into life, you had quite a tough childhood. Tell us about this famous estate that you grew up on in Watford.
Well, I don't think my childhood was tough. It wasn't tough at the time because that's all I knew and I had nothing to compare it to. I'm sure plenty of people in this room were brought up on council estates, and if you've got nothing to compare it to, you don't know any different. So what you've got is what you've got. I know people in this room had a much tougher life than I had. Speak to some of my Scottish friends perhaps and find out what sort of life they had on the back streets of Glasgow. But it was poor and it was on a...
Get you Jones!
Hey! Another superstar. Oh, Spiz brought his old band in tonight. God, that was... Hope you paid.
If he's Scottish, he's brilliant.
But South Oxley Estate was just outside of Watford. It was a massive council estate built just after the war when we had proper social housing built by a proper government that cared about people. And they built houses and they built schools and they built police stations and shops and they built a community centre. All the things that are fucking gone now, that have been ripped apart by the Tories, were all in place in the early, late 50s, early 60s, and my family, one of the first families there. And we had nothing, they were poor. I asked my mum recently, she's 90 soon, and I said, how poor were you, mum, really, honestly? She said, well, you were fucking poor. So, and your music's shit. So yeah, I didn't see it as tough. We had a lot of freedom, like we all did back in the day. You could go and wander across the fields and get up to all sorts and set fire to things, steal things, beat people up without getting arrested. All of that, yeah, all of that's to smash any window you liked.
Perfectly normal. Perfectly normal.
Yeah. So it wasn't tough. It was just different.
Yeah, but you say you were a shy, skinny crybaby.
Still am.
Yeah. But good at fixing things. You had a tough big brother and a tough dad too. Tell us about your brother and your sister and your dad.
Well, I was the youngest of 3. My brother was 3 years older and he was a bit of a hard nut, and he played football and he was good at everything and he was very clever. I came along and I was just like the skinny runt of the family. I wasn't very good at football. I weighed about 3 stone until I was 25. I was a real runty little kid, very artistic. And my tough dad was in the Navy, and he just argued with his fists all the time. So my whole life growing up, I remember him fighting. And he was a good sort of hard. He wasn't a horrible hard. He didn't gratuitously beat people up after getting drunk in the pub. He would beat them up if they insulted his family. So he was very protective of the family, and he would sort that out by fighting. It was really entertaining to watch Dad, because I knew he'd always win. He could punch really hard, and he would just lay people out. I thought, well done, Dad, yeah. But he never laid a hand on us, you know. He was never violent in the family. So my older brother was kind of like this big, strong, strapping footballer that I had to look up to, and I was the weedy kid, and my dad was a little bit disappointed, I think, in me, because of that. And my other side, my artistic and clever with my hand side, was not apparent, or wasn't encouraged, or wasn't, you know, certainly at school you weren't encouraged to do different stuff.
Yeah.
You had to be good at maths, English and football. So I was known as Jones Minor at school.
Yeah.
Jones Minor, I hope you're going to be good at football as your brother. No, I'm not. I hope you're going to be good at maths as your brother, Jones.
But pretty useful having a big tough brother to get you
The
out.
upside of that is having a bigger brother was that I didn't get picked on at school, and if I did say my brother's Terry Jones, people would actually start dusting me down, give me my pocket money back, and apologise profusely. And I fucking great. For the first 4 years of school, he was there, and people used to point at me in the playground and say, "That's Terry Jones' brother." Don't fucking leave him alone, I'm telling you. And some kids, if they did pick on me, they would appear later on with a black eye and a fat lip, and justice had been dispensed by Terry. Of course, he left school. And it was a bit different there, but by that time I was one of the bigger kids, so I was alright. Just those first 3 years of fucking hell in a senior school that I needed that protection, and God bless him, yeah.
And God bless him, he peed on your head.
He pissed on my head when I was 6 from standing up in a tree.
Very kind.
My mum said that's why I had curly hair. How about if I piss on yours, Mum, see if it works? So I go to the hairdressers every week. She didn't like that. It's comedy hour.
And Christine, your sister.
Christine, yeah, she was great at sports, but then went down the marriage and baby route and had a big family, loads of grandkids and stuff. Bless her.
Right. Okay.
Love her to bits. She's great.
I'm sure she's very bright and clever and wonderful as well.
No, she's thick as 2 planks, to be honest. She's lovely. She's got a heart of gold, seriously.
Yeah.
You know,
And here tonight, Christine.
I was waiting for Hamill Andrews to come in. But apart from being a born-again Christian, she's great.
Okay, all right. Tell us about your... You had a little dog named Lucky, which was kind of ironic in a way, because he was very unlucky. What is this about, a sewing needle?
A sewing needle up the arse. Well, oh no, it's all in the book. My dad was convinced that he could get my dog, train the dog to wipe its own paws when it comes in from outside. And for about 5 years, every time the dog came in, my dad would try and get him to wipe your feet, wipe your feet, wipe your feet, wipe your feet. And he wouldn't. And one day he tried to get the dog to sit down, and the dog wouldn't sit, even when my dad was trying to push him. Sit, 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 sit. I said, Dad, he's got something hanging out of his arse. And there was a sewing needle right in the rusty sheriff's badge, fucking bullseye, with a piece of cotton hanging down. And I thought, oh, that's got to hurt. So my dad said, well, I'll pull that out. So he gingerly pulled the cotton, and the arsehole started to come out with the needle. I thought, oh, that's not looking good at all. I thought we'd take the dog to the vets, but my dad said, no, we can't afford it. So out it came. That's the needle up the arse story, there you go.
Many animals were harmed in the writing of this book.
There could well have been others, but not by me, of course. Funny enough, the dog ran away from home. It did. Actually ran away. My dad ran away first, and then the dog ran away a few weeks later.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
How distraught was I?
You mentioned there, you know, your dad ran away, and he really did leave the family, which must have been an incredibly tough time for you, and you sort of had foresight of that, didn't you?
Yeah, I could see it coming, because there was some strange behaviour. He'd come down smelling of Old Spice in his suit of a night and go out and pat me mum on the head. And I said, where are you going? And he'd be going to some meeting. I don't know what he was meeting, but he was meeting somebody that I wasn't quite aware of.
Yeah.
The waft of Old Spice, and he was going to meet this woman, and there was a period where he was in the house, living with his mum, but still seeing another woman, and eventually she said, fuck off, and he did.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell me all of this. He couldn't. My father couldn't articulate any feelings at all. He would not discuss his feelings. He was born in 1927, youngest of 10 kids in the back streets of Liverpool. Who talks about their feelings when you that sort of upbringing?
Yeah.
So I completely understood that. But he just went, and I never saw him again for about another 20 years after that.
Yeah. God.
He's dead now.
Okay.
So cheerio, old evening.
On a
Lucky, aren't we?
You weren't short of meeting celebrities in your hometown either. You met Christopher Lee and Bruce Forsyth.
Bruce Forsyth, until I joined Public Image Ltd, he was my only claim to fame. I met him at a charity golf tour. I met him on a golf course. I was collecting autographs. That's where I met Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
I met Kenneth Wolstenholme. Who remembers him? Yeah. That shows your age, doesn't it? Pat Jennings was there, Jimmy Tarbuck, Ronnie Corbett, all that lot. And I saw Brucey walking up the fairway, and I ran after him. Bruce, have your autograph, please, Bruce. Have your autograph. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. What I didn't see was a drainage ditch right in front of me. I went flying down it. As quick as a flash, Brucey grabbed my hand and went, mind the ditch, sonny. So that was my claim to fame.
Oh.
Eh?
Was it a good game?
I'll do the comedy, it's all right. And I'm quite starstruck by all these people. Christopher Lee was scary. He was really tall, and I was quite small. And I looked up at him and he said, I hope you're getting this autograph for my name as an actor, not for the character I play. Shit me fucking pants.
Do you know, he said more deaths. He's in the record books for having more deaths as an actor on screen than any other actor.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a fact of the week.
Yeah, there you go. It's a freebie at the Rock and Roll Book Club. The first record you ever bought, Pete, was Telstar.
Telstar by the Tornadoes.
Yeah.
Joe Meek.
Yes, we had Clem Catini here at a previous Rock and Roll Book Club.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, that was my first record. I was 5 years old. My elder brother and sister told me I had to buy it with my pocket money, so they kindly took me down to the record shop to buy that record that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
With my pocket money that they wanted to hear. Thanks to them. Funny enough, Joe Meek never got that. That sold about 5 million copies. That record. It's number one in the US and in the UK. 5 million record spares. Imagine that. It's nearly as much as. It's nearly as many as Where's Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
5 million, and he didn't receive a penny of the royalties because there was a dispute that a plagiarism from the song, and he never. What? Yeah. Plagiarism. Yeah. But he never got. Well, he never got those royalties. He died before it got sold.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's a really sad story.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of music were you into as a teenager?
As a teenager, it was Bowie, really. Bowie and a bit of glam rock, Roxy music. Earlier than that, I remember the Beatles as a 5, 6, 7-year-old, Lonnie Donegan. And we had some records in the house. My sister was a Tamla Motown fan, so she had loads of Tamla Motown singles. So that was kind of playing all the time as a backdrop of my early life. And then it was into Bowie, really. That was the big thing for me.
Yeah, and prog rock.
Oh, there's a bit of that, sure.
Yeah, let's not deny it. It's in the book.
My punk credentials have just gone straight out the window.
I've seen your hair.
Is it? I was a bit of a progger back in the early 70s, yeah. And so I like Yes, I like Genesis. Chris Squire, the bass player, was my hero. So.
Oh, it's all coming out now.
Sorry. I've had therapy for it and I'm over it now. There you go.
You say in the book, I can trace my long musical journey back to a single moment. Tell us about that moment in the playground where you decided to start a band. Actually, it wasn't you, was it?
No, it was Tony.
Yeah.
My friend called... So there was 4 of us in the playground. Tony, another Peter, David and me, standing in the playground in the freezing cold. And Tony was the leader of our little gang. Now, there's always one at school who dictates what you do, where you go, and what you wear and everything. They're the leader of your little troop. And Tony just said out the blue, so let's start a band.
Yeah.
So I never thought of it before that. It never occurred to me to play an instrument. So I said, all right, so I'll play guitar. He went, no, I'm going to be the lead guitarist. I went, all right, Tony, fair enough, it's your idea. I said, I'll be the drummer. And Dave said, no, I'm going to be the fucking drummer, you piss off. And there's like a pecking order in your friends, isn't there? They was all above me in the pecking order. So I thought, it was only bass or keyboards, and the other people, he already had a Bontempi organ at home, and they had piano lessons. So it was me, I didn't even know what a bass guitar was. So I thought, all right, then I'll play bass. I was quite disappointed. I really was disappointed. But, you know, we started a band, called ourselves Cosmosis, and it's been... Cosmo, yes, it was 1973, for God's sake. What do you expect?
Your first composition...
We weren't going to be called The Clash, but we thought that was shit.
Yeah, it was. Your first composition was called, entitled, let me just see, Shipman.
Shipman, yes.
That sounds good. Do you remember how it goes?
Kind of, yeah, it's quite simple.
Go on then.
Well, you want to play it?
Oh, sing it.
There was no words to it. I didn't write any words. That first song we wrote was called Shipman. It was a basic, very simple riff that I made up on the guitar, and that's all the only song we knew. And we played it over and over and over and over again, and we recorded it on a tape recorder. And at the end of the recording, you could hear somebody say "Shipman." So we called it Shipman. And Dave's mum, who used to rehearse with, used to say, can't you play anything else? Please. No, we don't know anything else. Shit, 1, 2, 3, 4. Shit, man, yeah.
And it's in your set tonight.
If you want, yeah. Who wants to hear it?
Your first serious band, and you got a gig with a band called Blonde.
Ah, Blonde, yeah.
The name later had to be changed.
Yeah, well, this was before Blondie, so we were called Blonde, B-L-O-N-D-E, and we had a big backdrop made out of perspex and backlit. It's really expensive. And then Blondie came over from the States, and our manager said, we're going to have to change their name. And I said, well, we were first. Fuck them with their major record company backing. We were first. We had to change our name, so we changed it to Bogart for some reason.
Bogart?
Bogart, yeah.
Yeah.
As in Humphrey, yeah, Bogart.
And do you remember your very first gig, and how was your bass playing then?
Oh, it was sublime as it is now. We were a prog rock band when we was in Blonde, and we used to write songs in different time signatures and with some complexity. I joined that band, and the leader of that band, the guitarist, was a really, really good musician. I mean, it was really good. I mean, he could play any instrument. Really, it was down to him. He showed me what to play. He told me all the bass lines, and I was good at picking that up. He was an absolute wanker, and I hated it. But at the same time, he was teaching me how to play, so I kind of had to suck all that up. We were playing these really complicated tunes. And, Opus 49 was one of them. And we had a mellotron in the band. Do you know what a mellotron is? Yeah. Fuck me, are they heavy? It is the heaviest thing. We kept it in a basement. We had to carry it up the basement stairs and up on the awful thing. So that's what we were into when this thing called punk came along. You know, we just completely and utterly missed it. Missed it totally.
It's ironic, given your journey.
Yeah, it is really. I should be playing for Genesis or Yes or something, I suppose, instead of Public Enemy.
There's a recurring theme in the book. I mean, when you were with Blonde and you had your, Bogart, and you were introduced to Secret Records, and your first single came out, The Reba.
You haven't got that tonight. Please tell me you haven't got that.
Tony's probably got it. He's got everything. Have you got the Reba, Tony? No, not tonight. He's going to find it though. And shit, man. Yeah.
No, Bogart, the Reba. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because this is a recurring theme in the book, and it is a recurring theme for a lot of bands.
Well, they always make shit records.
Yeah, that as well. You say, I've got a feeling that this single will make this band take off to great heights that we've never seen. Only time will tell. And then you say, well, time did tell, and the single vanished up its own.
Arsehole.
Yeah. You in the book you keep thinking, like, before you get to Brian Brain and before you get to PiL, this recurring theme that you keep thinking that the big break is just around the corner, but you're not getting paid in cash, you're getting paid in hash. And it's a story...
Nothing wrong with that.
For a lot of bands, that situation where you've got a record company saying, yeah, you've got a gig coming up in X and you've got a gig coming up in Y. Talk about the frustration of that for little bands and big bands.
When you're a teenager, you're just so naive, aren't you, about everything? You believe everything you're told, particularly by people you think know what they're doing. From the age of... When we were 15, we said, if we haven't made it by the time we were 18, we might as well fucking forget it, we're too old. So that's where we started from, and ever since then we had these promises after promises, you know, this record company are interested, this distribution company are interested, Japan are interested, France are interested in picking up the single, oh, I might license it to the state, oh, yeah, okay, if you do that gig, you might get a gig there, oh, really? Oh, okay, yeah, we'll do it. And you go on and on and on and on, because what's the alternative? To accept that you're shit and give up? Well, you can't. There's lots of musicians in the room. Did you all feel the same when you were younger? All those promises. You know, it's what keeps you going. It's that rock and roll carrot. It's that rock and roll carrot. Apart from those that had a hit single straight off the bat, yeah. So yeah, it was a lot of... But when these things didn't happen, I didn't go, well, fucking hell, he's a lying bastard. I'd think, oh, okay. Yeah, but Japan might pick up the single, they might get a distribution deal in Japan. Oh, okay, yeah. And that's how it went on, one after the other, promises.
Yeah, and
bullshit.
You keep believing it. It keeps sort of feeds you.
Still do.
Yeah. Might happen. It might happen. Hey!
All right. Come on, calm down.
Let's talk about the love life of Pete Jones during this period.
How long you got?
Here we go. If you could sum it up in one word during that period, Pete, what would it be?
What sort of period? My teens, like
your teens, right?
Teens up to 20s.
Up to 20s, yeah.
Wanking.
I was going to go with stark, but if you...
I think wanking's more appropriate. That's mostly all I did.
So you didn't have a girlfriend?
No, don't get me wrong. I wasn't completely useless. I had girlfriends. I just didn't have much of a physical relationship. You keep that quiet when you go home, I know I'm telling you. The trouble was, when I was a teenager, and this is probably why I look a bit younger than my age now, is because when I was about 15, 16, I looked about 9.
Yeah.
I was very thin, I had very long curly hair. It was quite pretty, actually. And I used to get mistaken for a girl a lot. Lorry drivers would shout at me in the street, "Hey, darling!" All that stuff that you can't do anymore.
Confusing.
I went to buy a train ticket at Oxford Circus when I was about 15. This bloke looked at me and he went, "Hey, Steve, come over here, have a look at this. Here, look, it's a bloke." Can you imagine the effect that has on you as you're 15, a 15-year-old virgin? It's really skinny.
Yeah, you say 15-year-old virgin, but actually, when was your first girlfriend?
I was in my 20s when I first got my leg over. 21 when I first got my leg over.
And you actually...
I made up for it since, though.
And you actually... Was it Lorraine?
Right, yeah. She ended up being my first wife. I was so desperate. Once I found somebody who'd sleep with me, I didn't want to let it go. So I didn't think there'd be another one for another 20 years.
I'm sort of tempted to ask the very moment that you proposed.
Do you know what? No idea. Can't remember proposing to her, to be honest. No. I've erased it from my memory. It wasn't.
I mean, you waited.
We're divorced now, by the way.
You waited all that time.
Waited all that time, yeah, and then.
And then scooped her up and said, "You're my wife."
Well, we went out for quite a long while before we got married. We had 3 kids together, so it wasn't all bad. It was mostly bad. It wasn't all bad. My second marriage, well, that was another divorce. I've been married twice. That was another disaster.
It's young and joyless.
Why are you joyless? She says.
Bogart.
I've got a partner now, by the way, so I'm happily living with a partner now.
Yes.
Yeah. Lovely Mika. Lovely Mika, yeah. She's not here tonight, she's recovering from an operation, but I can guarantee she is ecstatically, blissfully happy. I can assure you.
Actually, I've got a text here from her. Bogart becoming the Hots.
Yeah, Bogart.
Yeah.
We realised that was a stupid name, so we thought we'd get another stupid name, and we called ourselves the Hots.
That's optimistic.
Nice. We did a song called "She's Got the Hots," making her hot under the cotton la la la.
What a winner.
Aye, that's it.
And you needed a new drummer, so you set about some new auditions. Tell us about the audition of a certain Mr. Martin Atkins.
Yeah, well, our drummer left to join a band called Lone Stars. Anybody remember them? Metal band, yeah, our drummer left to join them. And we thought, you're leaving to join a famous band when you could stay here with us in Watford with this shitty little band. Well, mad you are. So yeah, we had to audition, and this guy came in, and we auditioned loads of drummers. You know, drummers came in with their mums and dads. There was all sorts of weird people came in, and this young bluff northerner came in, sat down behind a kit, bash, went straight away, blew us away. He just got it. He just. You could tell he had the talent as a natural drummer, and bash. He went into it. He'd been backing strippers up north in the northern clubs for years and stuff like. He had a real. Even though he was only 17, he had a real background of experience of real work, you know. Yeah. And he was great. That was Martin Atkins, who then shortly after left us to go and join Public Image Ltd. And also, if it hadn't been for that, then I suddenly would not have joined Public Image Ltd.
But before that, there was Brian Brain.
Brian Brain, yeah. So Martin Atkins had this alter ego called Brian Brain, and he thought it would be an idea to go out on the road as Brian Brain. We went out as a three-piece, but he couldn't play drums and sing at the same time, so we recorded all of the drums onto tape. So he sang, had a tape recorder, I played bass, and a guy called Bobby Surgeon had played guitar. And it was absolutely bonkers, and we somehow got 4 tours of the United States out of it. Fucking brilliant. And Martin Atkins is so driven, and he is to this day, if anybody knows him, he's absolutely fabulous. He organised a tour of the United States from a public phone box in the hallway of his flat in Willesden. I kid you not, I can't fucking believe it. I said, you're joking. He said, I'm going to do it. He'd stand there with a pile of 10p's, make the call. Hang on. Can you call me back? He'd get them to call back, and it might be an hour later, and then he'd have to run down from his 3rd floor flat before anybody else answered the phone. Hello, yeah, I'm in the office. He had such bravado, and within weeks we were off it's going to America. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. We went there 4 times. We toured there again when I was with PiL. We did some Brian Brain dates. Yeah. And it's bonkers, absolutely bonkers. It's like very violent, very, very chaotic.
Yes.
It was me and Martin practically alcoholics at the time, so everything was just a disaster. But fuck me, it's great fun.
Well, if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you to read a little bit from your book about a Brian Brain gig.
Did you pass this past my agent?
I did, yeah. It was you.
What am I reading from? What will we set the scene?
Where it says read.
Okay, yes. You got that one. I'm just trying to set the scene. So Brian Brain, we booked a gig at the John Bull in Chiswick. Okay, it was a small pub. We had this Revox tape recorder doing the drums, no monitors, couldn't hear anything, and we had all our friends to come down to this little boozer. And now, it must seem like a good idea at the time, and I can't really remember why we chose bananas to throw at the audience, other than it was pretty easy to write the name of the band along the side. So Martin had this idea that at the end of the show we'd throw stuff, just lob bananas into the audience. Great idea, marketing angle on that, yeah? The gig was an absolute hoot. There were fuck-ups aplenty, but the backing track just kept playing, and so many of our friends came along, it turned into a party atmosphere. People were jostling, falling over and laughing at Martin, who got so pissed to calm his nerves he could hardly stand. He spent most of the show rolling around on the floor or creating havoc in the audience. When it came to the big banana ending, the place descended into chaos. Of course, this is what we didn't realise, if you start throwing stuff into an audience, you naturally get it thrown back. Usually at twice the force. I got hit in the face and the bollocks by returning high-velocity bananas. And then they soon started to split and mush up on the floor, ceiling, and even inside the wall lights of the pub. The pub stank of bananas for weeks afterwards, and apparently they deducted £5 from our £15 fee to cover the cost of cleaning. A friend of mine went into the same pub many years later, and he swore he could still smell the faint aroma of bananas in the bar. And that's what it was like. At the end of the last song on a Brian Brain set, we recorded all the instruments, so Bobby and I could put down our guitars, and we would start throwing and re-throwing stuff. And later on it got very dangerous. We had bottles thrown and glasses and all sorts. It did get really dangerous. We ended up in hospital more than once because of that. So, you know, it was a stupid idea.
And you threw a lot of stuff It wasn't just bananas.
No,
I think you would have learned your lesson.
We threw, you know, if it was somebody's birthday, we'd have cakes. It was Easter with Easter eggs. Mine even turned up at a gig at the Acklam Hall. Who remembers the Acklam Hall? Yeah, we played a gig there, and he turned up with a big bag of dead chickens. I said, "What are you going to do with them?" He said, "I'm going to throw them in the audience." They still had their heads on and neck.
Animals were harmed. And
So mid-set, you're swinging these chickens round. Whoosh, and £5 of chicken coming at your head. Well, we were supporting Delta 5. Do you remember Delta 5?
Yeah.
They were a great band, good friends of ours. Halfway through their set, their singer got a £5 chicken right in the chest. Mid-song, like, what the fuck? Oh, it's so funny. It wasn't him, but we found it really funny.
Yeah, and ping pong balls.
Yeah, ping pong balls were a little bit less and more innocuous. They weren't so dangerous, but yeah, we throw
I can't imagine why, and tell me why you as a band, especially Martin, got a lot of kickings.
Why do you think? Martin was and still is very larger than life. You know, he's quite a big chap, and he would walk around in a tartan suit, going to the Spotted Dog in Willesden.
Yeah.
For the fire, you know the Spotted Dog in Willesden. You wouldn't walk in there with a suit, let alone a tartan suit. You know, and he just is one of those people that naturally attracted trouble, and I never got a kick in anywhere. You know, I was with him all the time. I never got a kick in, not once, but he did. I always thought it's because I looked so tough, but it's because people looked at me and didn't see me as a threat. So yeah, he'd get regularly beaten up. In America, he ended up in hospital several times. Got a kicking off a G.G. Allen. After a gig, he broke his nose and his jaw in 2 places, put him in hospital. So,
and
yeah.
the Cockney Rejects.
The Cockney Rejects, yeah, that was at the Bridge House in Canning Town. I think is that pub still there? The Bridge House in Canning Town. It's gone now. It's moved. That's right. It's been, well, the original Bridge House in Canning Town. We played there, and it was full of West Ham skinheads, and they were going to murder us, basically. Yeah, they were going to murder us. Luckily, they were kicking somebody's head in the car park, so we saw that. We legged it out the other door.
Yeah, but they came backstage to you, didn't they?
Yeah, we threw the bananas in at the end. And then somebody kicked the door open, these 2 skinners came in. Hey, you're fucking throwing out bananas. You throw bananas at us, we're going to make a fucking monkey out of you. Brian Brain versus the Cockney Rejects outside. We were shitting ourselves because there was lots of them. There was at least 200 of them. We sent our friend out to phone the police, and he came running back in, almost crying. He said, "They've ripped the phone box off the wall." And we were stuck there until we saw our little break, and off we went.
I mean, there's brilliant Brian Brain stories in there that
oh, it's all in the book, yeah.
Yeah, incredible, and really, really funny as well. There are times in the book that you get, let's call it, spirited and truthful about Martin Atkins. Do you know if he has read this book?
I sent him a copy of the book. We do communicate quite regularly. He lives in Chicago now, so we don't see each other often, but we do communicate. And he's one of our best mates, yeah.
Well, he sent.
So he obviously hasn't read the book yet.
He sent you a message.
Did he?
Yeah, he said, "I'd like to say what a nice guy and huge technical and soulful, talented player you are. I loved our time together as a singer and as the mighty rhythm section. Much love and respect, Martin."
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say, "I'd like to say that, but I won't." Because,
Yeah. Well, he hasn't read the book, clearly. I mean, that's
change it. Oh, bless him. I should send him a thank you note. It's very kind of you to sort that out. Thank you.
Brian Brain goes to America. Now, we have to have you reading a little bit again, because we thoroughly enjoyed it there a minute ago. So you're going to tell the story now about your trip, your first trip.
When we first went to New York. All right.
Yeah, let's just start there.
Just set the scene. We organised this tour to the US. Our visas were late. We just got the tickets, and we was flying out the next day. So we thought it'd be a good idea to go to the all-night cinema in Leicester Square after taking some speed and stay up all night watching 5 Charles Bronson films. And so that was a good preparation for a tour, obviously. Why wouldn't you? So, but, you know, New York City, 1980, was a different place than it is now, and it was a total assault on my senses. Everything I'd seen in all those imported American TV programmes was right there in front of me, as if I was walking into my TV, straight onto the set of Kojak. It was all so familiar, yet all so foreign at the same time. The scale of the buildings took my breath away, and I spent the following morning, after our arrival, walking around looking up at the skyscraper saying, "Fucking hell! Fucking hell!" Honestly, I just couldn't believe the scale of it. It was absolutely huge. I absolutely loved the vibe. The yellow taxi cabs were an icon, particularly the large, bulbous checker cabs, I don't know if anybody remembers those, with a bulletproof driver partition. We'd all pile into one of those of an evening outside a hotel and tell the driver we were really late for a show, and then hang on for dear life as he thundered downtown in record time, just for the fun of it. The steam rising from the sidewalk, the noise, the smells, it was almost too much to take in. I went out and ordered pastrami on rye from the local deli, even though I didn't actually know what either pastrami or rye was. I just heard it mentioned so many times on TV shows, I had to try it. It was awful. It's fucking horrible. It's a bit like a piece of old shoe leather between two slices of cardboard. I tried bagels too and hated every mouthful. I didn't care. I was in America.
There's a great bit in the book where you talk about you're watching John on stage and you're admiring him despite everything that's happening in PiL. You're thoroughly enjoying it. I wonder if you might read it. It'll be the last thing that you read.
Is that about the first show we did? Yeah, the first show was a bit special. It was a new experience for me, and it made a change to finally have a decent crowd in front of me instead of the light scattering of punters we usually saw at a Brian Brain gig. It was electrifying. As I stuck up the opening bass notes to Public Image, there was another huge sway of fans forwards crushing those at the front. A barrier collapsed, and suddenly there were bodies everywhere, all struggling to stay on their feet. Complete crazy madness, but what a buzz. So keep going. Oh. Yeah. Sorry. The power of music, just 2 bars of pulsing bass line, was all it took to get a reaction like that. I'd never seen anything like it, and my senses were going through the stratosphere. As a performer, if you're ever lucky enough to play in such circumstances, you realise just what a high it is. Drugs or no drugs, it's a massive shot of adrenaline, plus something else that you just can't fully describe. John was in his element, and I have to admit, during this period as a frontman, apart from his early Sex Pistols days, he was at his very best. He prowled backwards and forth across the stage, baiting the crowd, staring into the fans' eyes, wailing and singing in his unique style. It didn't matter, he held the crowd in his hand, would often catch cigarettes off people or kneel down for a chat. And if anyone gave him any stick or spat, he would give it right back and then some. And he hated that punk parody spitting shit. I used to love watching him work. He really was one of a kind, but he didn't like me watching him and said I was looking at him funny during the shows. I didn't have to put on any sort of show like I did with Brian Brain. John was the entertainment, and all eyes were on him most of the time. So I decided just to act the cool bass man, stand at the back in front of my bass rig, watching the show unfold in front of me. The playing was piss easy. I could play those parts with my eyes closed, so all I had for fun was to watch John swanning up and down the stage being rotten. We were all relieved that first show was a resounding success. PiL was sounded immense, and it was probably one of the best times in their history. We came on stage on a high, dived straight to the booze and stimulants. There were loads of people milling about backstage. I wasn't interested in the slightest of who they were, or if they were of any importance. I wasn't about to try and schmooze any showbiz types, no matter what their name was. I was in Public Image Ltd, one of the coolest fucking bands on the planet. I just didn't care, and everyone else could go fuck themselves.
Did you feel like, I mean, you must have felt like you had really made it then when you came off stage, after all those years?
Kind of, yeah, apart from there was no money. I wasn't getting paid.
Yeah.
There was kind of something missing out of all that. But in terms of the stature, we had a road cruiser. You walk on stage, get given a guitar, play, give it back and walk off at the end, get into a limo. God, we had limos, can you believe that? That's John's ethic. But it was a totally different league of playing in a band of that stature in front of those sort of crowds. And it attracted everybody. I mean, Harvey Keitel came to see us because John had been working with him on the film. I didn't care who he was. I didn't know who he was, to be honest, Harvey Keitel. I wish I'd made more of an effort, to be honest. And then Billy Idol would come swanning in, and I think, oh, fuck off, I don't want to talk to you, Jesus Christ. And your little entourage and your little lip going up and down like that. You just think, oh, fuck off. Didn't care, you know. I'm in PiL. Yeah, go fuck off. So much fun at the Iroquois. It's a great hotel.
Yeah. There's a lot of great stuff about the Iroquois in the book as well. I wish we had more time, but when you left PiL, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come to you in a second for your questions, so get ready. But when you left PiL, of course, you had to watch their biggest hit. This Is Not a Love Song.
Timing wasn't great, was it?
Climbing the charts to number 5.
Just before I left, there was talk about releasing the single, and I didn't know what it was going to be. And it was only when I come back to England, literally a couple of weeks later, I heard, "Is it not a love song?" On the right, bloody hell, that's me on there. And it was really strange. It was a very surreal moment to hear that being played, and I wasn't in the band anymore. So it didn't bother me much, but it was definitely strange.
But you went out and bought it?
No, I never bought it, no. I bought it about 20 years later.
It says in the book you went out and bought it.
That was a lie. I may have, but did I say I bought a copy? Then I must have done that.
You said something like, I went out and bought a copy because I wasn't going to get one for free, was I?
I think the 12-inch I bought subsequently later on. There was a 12-inch version that came out. Yeah.
But when you, what were your feelings when you saw it in the charts? Because it was the biggest hit.
I thought, where's my money?
And did you get your money?
I didn't get my money at the time because I didn't write the song. I just played on it, so I got performing royalties for it some 25 years later. And I managed to get it recorded as me being on the song. So it doesn't earn a lot, but it pays for a meal out every year. Whatever.
It's a great bass, isn't it? Yeah. Should we give it a little round of applause?
No, thank you, very kind. Very kind. Simple, keep it simple, that's all I can play.
I think it's great. There's loads more that we haven't got time to cover. Your long and joyful career at Kodak, how you end the book. Actually, we'll talk very quickly about, you end the book as you begin it, which is, you begin the book when you meet John, and you end the book and you meet John again.
Yes.
How are things now, and tell us about that meeting?
They did a gig at the 100 Club. I don't know if anybody went to that. Did anybody go to the 100 Club? It was the Fred Perry nights. It's £5 to get in at the 100 Club. And so I went to see John, and I knocked on the dressing room door, and Rambo eventually let me in, gave me an audience with Lord Johnny Snotty Pants, and I was wearing this suit, and he said, "Fuck me, you been to the races?" So yes, John, yeah, I've come straight from fucking Ascot, yeah, how you doing? And we had a hug, and he was very, very gracious actually, probably the most sensible conversation I'd ever had with the bloke. We sat and chatted about the old days. But we got on all right, didn't we? He said, "Yeah, we got on all right. Yeah, it was fine." Chatted for 20 minutes, and then we had a chat, and then we shook hands, and then I haven't spoken to him since.
And if you can look back at these things and go, God, we were in our 20s. We were young, and you realise that when you get older, they're just silly things that you were fighting about. If John, now that you and John are reconciled, if he called you up and said, "Pete, I want you to join the band again," what would you say?
No. No. Not in a million years. Wouldn't go back.
All right.
Which sounds, it sounds strange, but it is. I don't like going back anyway. But just because he's in a famous band now, it's not a reason to go back and join them. I think artistically, if there was something in it artistically that would draw me back, would be, let's do an experimental album, for example.
Yeah.
But if he just wanted me to come along and play bass and pay me every week like a session player, then no, because that's what he's got now. He's got the Johnny Rotten show, plus a couple of session guys behind him, and I think it stinks. So I wouldn't want to be part of that. I'd want to be part of the old PiL. The old PiL was there. It was dangerous, it was menace, it pushed boundaries. Not the one we've got now. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, I love him and that, but it's just, come on, John, move on. I think he could have done something really, really interesting if he'd diversified with PiL and done a little bit more avant-garde, gone a little bit left field.
Yeah.
I just don't like what he does, so no, I wouldn't join him.
Yeah, I messaged him, he doesn't want you anyway.
Yeah, I'm too expensive now.
Very quickly, we're coming to you next. One more question. After a long and joyful career at Kodak, some years later you were asked to join the mighty Department S.
Ah, yeah, that was interesting, yeah.
What was that? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I went to see them play a charity gig in Enfield, and I was really impressed with their back catalogue of songs. I had no idea. I knew about Vic, obviously, but there's some great songs. It really was going, oh, that's bloody great. They were a little bit kind of haphazard through lack of rehearsals and a bit weak in the bass department. But I thought they could be really good, and eventually it led to me being asked to play bass for them for some gigs, and it sounded great. And we just went on from there, did a new album called When All Is Said and All Is Done in 2016. And I wrote some of that along with Eddie, who's here tonight. We'll be seeing him later. And I produced the album as well. So we did some really good work. So some great gigs, great support slots. Played with the Rux DC and Eddie and the Hot Rods, and all sorts of, played some great festivals with Rebellion. So I had a really good 5 years. But then after 5 years, it was just time for me to move on. There was no animosity or anything. I didn't have a fight with Eddie over the makeup bag or anything,
All right.
Left on good terms.
Who's got a question for Pete?
I've got one.
Go on.
How the fuck did you get away with playing one note on that love song and it was all okay? I mean, it must have been fantastic. It sounded great. When I bought it, I thought, what a fucking great idea. It was so minimal and so effective.
Yeah, thank you. I've worked with Martin Atkins a long time. We kind of just locked into each other. And he plays that really straight as well, if you listen to it. There's not much drumming going on.
Yeah.
It's all about delivering the vocal, delivering the top line on the chorus, really. It's not a love song. That's all that song is. Everything else is almost superfluous. So it could afford to be minimal because everything was hanging on the chorus.
Well, I thought that it was a sample because it was so spot on.
Yeah, it sounds like a sample. That's just me, my good playing, I suppose.
Have you got a style of bass playing?
No, just make up. I've never had any lessons or anything. Self-taught and just make up as I go along. I'm not even. I don't call myself a pure musician. I can't read music. Musical theory, I'm very weak on. I know the difference between a major and a minor scale. That's about it. But the rest of it, I play by ear. So if I'm writing a bass song, it takes a lot of trial and error to find something that fits. That particular bass line was kind of just seemed to fit. Just hit a bottom E, and everybody went, "Oh, that's great."
Yeah.
And that's it. Well, that stays then. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Your new album's brilliant.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Yeah,
Whoever you are.
Contrivances for the
Yeah, I've got a new album out. It's available tonight. It's a vinyl, limited edition, blue vinyl, heavyweight vinyl, gatefold sleeve, and it's all me, solo album. Lee Hegarty features on one track playing guitar. Top guy Lee. And I'm very proud of it. So I'm not going to be playing any songs from that album tonight because there's a bit of complexity in trying to produce that live. So later
very
on,
clever.
Thank you very much. Later on in the year, I might kind of do some of that live. But
Yeah. And it came to you in a dream.
Contrivances for the Soul came to me in a dream. Yeah, it sounds terrible now. I hate saying it, but it did. I was fast asleep one night and a voice said in my ear, "Go forth and manufacture contrivances for the soul." And it was really loud, it woke me up, and I thought, what the fucking hell's that? And then I worked out that if I did an album called Contrivances for the Soul, then that would make sense. Go forth and manufacture, go and make contrivances for the soul. And that's what I called the album. Thank you, God, whoever it was that spoke to me out of the blue.
After this, you're going to be playing, and you're going to be playing with, performing with Southdown Laundry Club.
Southdown Laundry, yeah. First up, we're going to have a short performance of 2 poems from Southdown Laundry Club, which is my good friend. Yeah, my good friend Irving Hunter has written the poems. Andy Trussler, who's with Rogue Sector, along with Paul Freegard, and myself, providing some sort of backing. Not quite sure what we're going to play yet, but we'll play something to support the excellent poems from Irving. So I suggest you come back. Are we having a break now? Or
well, we're going to have people come up and we're going to have people buy books because it's an excellent book.
Right.
Come up here, have their photo taken with you, get it signed. You write some abusive message in it,
if you like.
and then you're going to play.
Okay, I just encourage you to come in and listen and to the 2 poems that we're going to do. They're very powerful pieces, and I'm really interested in how they turn out because we've never done this before. This is the first. It might well be the only performance from Southdown Laundry Club. I can see Irving hovering at the back over there. Don't let him run off. So he's not a performer, but he's going to perform 2 poems. It'll be a really special thing. And then we're going to play some old PiL songs, and a couple of guest vocalists are going to come up.
Yeah, fantastic. Ruth, where are you? So if you want to buy a book, you can buy a book off Ruth for a tenner. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface of what is in this book. The vivid childhood stories, Pete's brief stints in other bands, Cowboys International, The Absolute Madness of Brian Brain, tons more detail on PiL, more outrageous stories of drunkenness, New York, the Kodak years, the time Pete lost it when, at a service station, a sausage fell out of his muffin. You need to pick up a copy and get it signed. It's a fantastic read. But before you go, Pete, by the way, we're going to be back here, if you've enjoyed tonight, on March the 2nd in the Dublin Castle with Brian James of The Damned, who also has a book out with John Wombat. He will also be sitting here. But one last thing for Pete, before we leave him, we have a small piece of art presentation for you, Pete, that we couldn't let you go without accepting. It's the Pete Jones Banana! Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Jones!
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.